What's up, guys? Welcome to your 64th Android tutorial. I believe it is. Let me check. Just make sure. 63rd Android tutorial. Feels like the 64th for some reason. Basically what I want you guys to do in this tutorial is, either we can work with that plus that you guys created earlier, or just create a new little image that's 75 pixels by 75 and save it in your resource folder. I called it green ball. If you guys want to follow along exactly with the code, but then just clean the project, make sure everything's working. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create our actual view, which is going to hold our animation or whatever we're going to want to do with this. I'm not quite sure exactly what I want to do yet, because you don't really want to use this technique so much because it's going to interfere with the user interface or input stuff. But okay, first let's just get into it before I confuse you guys. Let's create a new class called myBringBack, or whatever you guys define this class name as. If the computer doesn't crash here. So you can either go new class like this, or I think you could probably just hover over that and create a class that way, but make sure it's the same as whatever you define your variable type as. So myBringBack, like that, and now we have this class called myBringBack. What we're going to do in this class is, instead of extending the activity class, we're going to say extends view, and we got to import view, and then it says, hey, we're basically going to have to use a constructor. And you're like, what's a constructor? Well, basically, when we go back into our graphics effects, FX or GFX, I'll be switching between these back and forth. So if you guys get confused where I'm at, it's one of those two. Basically, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we want a new myBringBack object. We're going to pass in some information. What are we passing in? Well, we're passing in this, referring to the context of this class. That's what we're passing in. So now we need to get kind of a receiver. Basically, this threw the football, and we need someone to catch it. So basically, this constructor is going to catch that information and create, or construct something from the information that it gets. So all we're going to do is we can either probably just hover over here again, and it'll add it for us, because as you can see, you can add as many parameters as you want, and so we're just going to add the one that takes into context, because again, we didn't pass in a context and attribute set, or context and attribute set, or int. I mean, those are basically probably the ones that most likely you're going to use, but you can also create your own type of constructor for the most part. But since again our takes in a context, we're going to click this, and there we go, we set up our constructor. And now when we pass in the context of this class, it's basically going to be like, okay, we got some context right here, and we're going to call it context so we can use it within this opening bracket. And within here we can define some variables, all that good stuff. So let's set up a variable. Well, first we want something that's going to happen or be able to be used within our whole class. So we're going to say bitmap, and we're going to call it gball for green ball. And we are going to define it yet. We're just going to say, hey, there's going to be this variable, look out for it. And now within our constructor, let's define it within there. So we're going to say gball equals, and I believe we've done setting up bitmaps before from a resource folder, but just in case if you guys forgot, we're going to say bitmap factory, because repetition is always good, dot decode resources, or decode, is it resource, which one? Yeah, decode resource right here with the resource and the int, and then we're going to click that, and for this first one we're going to say get resource method right here, and then for this one it's going to be our actual ID within our drawable folder that we just added. And again, I called mine green ball, so it's going to be r.drawable.green ball right there. And basically we've set up that variable type. Now I think that's probably all I'm going to cover for this tutorial. I don't want to get into too much yet, but basically the thing that we did is we created a constructor, and when you create a constructor also, As you notice, it's the same name as our class name. So a constructor has to be the same name as your class name is. And then, you give it the parameters that's going to take in, or the information it's looking for. And then basically when we create a new object, like we did in our graphics here, you can give some information to start it up, or give it some, specific information. And then the my bring back class is going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to process this stuff. I'm going to create this unique thing for you and pass it back. So it's giving it a new object, or a new instance, which is what we are creating here for our view. So I don't know if that made sense or not, but basically that's just how we can create a constructor. So I will catch you guys in the next tutorial, and we'll get into some, a little bit of animation. So see you then. Peace.